Given that we have moved through this pandemic, we are looking from a public health perspective that your facility manager may have a greater impact on your health than your doctor. That's a lot of responsibility, Dave.
Health and wellness of occupants has emerged as a critical aspect of the job for facility managers. One of the building standards that helps building owners and facility managers with improving conditions in their institutional and commercial facilities is WELL. In this video, we speak with Dr. Whitney Austin Gray, the Senior Vice President of Research with the WELL Building Institute. Dave Lubach, the Executive Editor of the Facilities Market, speaks with Dr. Gray on the important role that facility managers play in keeping building occupants healthy.
When facility managers and building owners hear that term health and wellness, what should they be thinking in terms of, how they can benefit their building occupants?
So given that we have moved through this pandemic, we are looking from a public health perspective that your facility manager may have a greater impact on your health than your doctor. That's a lot of responsibility, Dave. So when you hear the term health and wellness, I want you to think responsibility. I also want you to think opportunity and leadership. So when we're faced with having an expertise area and then having to step up and into advising people on their safety, health, and well-being, stepping up to advise our C-suite, advising on how to manage wildfires, how to manage transmission of contagious or pathogens during a flu season or COVID, we can feel overwhelmed. Where do I go for information? Where do I start? I need to get this done. I need to get this solved. But in public health, we actually take these moments to reflect that there were a lot of things the facility managers were already leading in, that we're already knowledgeable about, that maybe some building owners and some of our tenants weren't maybe as aware of or paying attention to. So let's take health and wellness as a time of responsibility, as a time of opportunity to step up and in to being a health and well-being expert. I think that facility managers with the title of being a health and well-being expert or being a well-accredited professional should also be entitled and should have a larger salary that's supportive of their expertise area, just the way we do like in sustainability. And I think that leadership is right there at the doorsteps to stay. We know how to create healthy places. We know how to partner. We know how to learn. We have information. We know how the building works. Now people are listening, and it's time to invest, take action, and take this opportunity to be the leaders in this field. I think I will add that in particular, in my observation with facility managers throughout sustainability and health and wellness, movements, is that too often we have clients that take it for granted, right? Say that my office is fine, or say that it doesn't really matter that much, right? The air quality or the sound, until it does. And then people start paying a lot of attention. And within the facility management field, I've seen so many leaders step up in, train themselves, find that they're inter and transdisciplinary in their scope, and stepping swiftly into corporate real estate executive roles because of these opportunities. So whereas I think there are some other fields and disciplines that are not as agile, facility managers, I think in many ways, are fixers. They're solvers, right? They understand how systems work, and as such, I think are really well positioned to step up and in, to adapt, to use skills, and to be leaders in this time where buildings are going to determine how well and long we live, and facility managers are going to have a greater impact on the public's health right now than even physicians.
That's really probably one of the roles that's really emerged from the pandemic, is the facility manager's impact on these kind of things. Because like you said earlier, you usually think a doctor, I have to go and get these things diagnosed, but you can get wealthier and healthier just by merely having a good work conditions around your building.
You spend about 90% of your time indoors. So if anyone on this call is 50, and I won't ask anyone's age here, but that's 45 years of your life indoors. Keep in mind that architects, engineers have not been required to take formal training in health. And then facility managers are operating and maintaining these spaces. So there's huge impact you can make on that 90% of time that people spend indoors. not done yet. You spend 90,000 hours of your life at work. And the largest determiner of how well and long you will live is your social and environmental exposure. So these are your behaviors and your environment. It's not your genetics. It's not access to nature. So let's just break that down, right? Don't wait for your genes to say that you're having a cardiovascular risk. When we're moving around and even have, active ways to be engaged in our space through active staircases, for example, then we prevent the issue from ever occurring. That's why facility managers are more powerful than doctors, because doctors diagnose once there's a problem. So public health, we prevent it from happening. I think this audience knows well what happens when you prevent and you think about solutions before there becomes a flood in the building. Your body's not so dissimilar. If you put in the maintenance up front, it matters. And there's so many examples of this, right? So we can look at cardiovascular disease. Asthma is going to be a big one. We even know from occupational health studies, silica dust exposure, right? We know diesel fuel, diesel exhaust, right? We are studying what's happening with VOCs and particulate matter. And we are exposed for prolonged time, for 90,000 hours, for 45 years of our life. That will show up in your health. And that's your day-to-day health. That's not your one point in time in your old health. And so it's the people that are charged with environments that you're in day to day that have that power to make the change.
During this change, Whitney, I'm sure you see a lot of programs that have been inserted and taken on by facility managers. What are some of the more popular approaches and programs that you've seen kind of emerge as maybe good first options or popular options with the institutional and commercial field?
So the first thing is that when you're looking at health and wellness, it feels complex. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by understanding everything about asthma and cardiovascular disease, you're not alone. If you didn't receive formal training or feel you're being put in a position to take this on overnight and make decisions, you are likely feeling overwhelmed. So what do? We outsource. We go to experts that know what they're doing and they give us a roadmap. That also gives us third-party validation. So when we're doing something, we want to make sure that we're doing it right. We have a roadmap and it's validated. So with the well building standard, we just saw that problem, right? There's hundreds of things you can do for your health. You only have a limited budget. What do you do? And what's going to show up? Like, what are you being evaluated on at the end of the year? What is your boss going to be looking at that matters? Like, let's get real, right? There's lots of things we can do. So with Well, we said, we just need to put these strategies in a format that everyone can use. So number one, these are free to download. So the Well Building Standard is free to download. I recommend that everyone start with a checklist. And that should be an hour-long exercise because you know your building or the floor print that you want to focus on. And you will say, yes, we have air quality. Yes, we've reduced materials in the space. Yes, we test water, or no, we don't, or I don't know. At the end of the hour, you'll have a good sense of where are we. And no one has to approve that. That's an hour of your time. Well, it is an hour of your time, but it's not 50 hours at $50,000. That's a good place to start. From there, I would really look at some of our rating systems. So our ratings are going to be a portion of Well. So when you know you need to make a change, it's better to do something than nothing at all. And we get paralyzed, right? Like even when LEAD was the system, it was like, oh my gosh, it's so big. I've got to learn it all. I've got to do training. I'll just do it tomorrow. You cannot wait for tomorrow. There will be more pathogens. There will be the flu season. It happens every year and it will be coupled on with COVID. And of course, these wildfire smokes, particulate matter issues, climate change. It's not an if, it's a when. So just do the checklist and then look at these ratings as ways to do something. These might be 25 features of the full list. So I would go to the health safety rating. That's 25 features. I would focus that with your team and say, what can we do today? What are we going to need additional resources to do tomorrow? And what you have done then is you have addressed what you're doing in health and well-being. You've become knowledgeable and informed. If anyone asks you, you've already done the assessment, so you're ahead of the game. And you might pick up something, learn something, and think a little differently. And I think we also find a lot of our projects is a lot of incredible facility managers are already doing this stuff, but they haven't been recognized, or maybe they haven't done it in such a way that it's being reported, as a health and well-being strategy. And so let's make sure that we get credit where credit is due, right? And come up with a system that can be recognized, you know, by leadership as saying, I'm not going to buy a very expensive wellness plan where people are encouraged to meditate. I'm also going to be looking at building interventions with ventilation as a health and well-being strategy. They're both important, right, Dave? But I'm going to argue that facilities should be receiving part of HR's budget on health and well-being because the environment is critical for health as well as some of the programs. And the health safety rating is going to just give you that backbone, the third party, where do I start, do my homework, be informed, and be a leader.